The things that I say behind the mic that I don't put into the episode. Anyway, welcome back to The Witch Show. Thanks for joining us again here. But before we go ahead and get into today's episode, I just want to address something that happened last week.
Some things were said, actions were taken, sounds were produced.
You blew an Aztec death whistle directly into my face.
Wrong. Scientifically speaking, it was near your face.
It was touching my nose. I could taste the terror.
Okay, but you gotta admit, it sounded crazy. It's like 1,000 ancient warrior ghosts screaming, "Pay your parking tickets," you know?
Yeah, that's the problem. Like, you created auditory haunting inside my soul. My soul needs therapy now.
I noticed that you left the studio like you were walking away from a war.
Yeah, because you committed one.
Okay, fair. So, I got you something.
If it's another death whistle, I swear to God.
No. Look. It's a candle. Lavender. Says promotes emotional regulation for people whose co-hosts are little goblins.
Okay, thank you. I actually appreciate that.
Yeah, of course, dude. Also, I wrote an apology.
Oh, wow. Okay, well, let's hear it.
All right, here we go, dude. Freaking Dear Georgie, I'm sorry that my ancient death whistle blew the spirits of the fallen warriors directly into your brain. I acknowledge that this may have disrupted your sense of inner peace and your cardiovascular stability and connection to God. I vow to only blow cursed air instruments in well-ventilated emotional environments moving forward. Amen.
Amen. You know what? I'll take it.
Oh, wait, really?
Yeah, dude, because at least you tried. And because as much as you are chaos incarnate, we do this together.
Yeah, dude. You make the show make sense. I make the show weird and loud and sometimes legally concerning.
Yeah, and sometimes I take things too serious. I know
Yeah,
that.
that's why it works, dude. We balance the structure. I'm the cryptid screaming on the roof.
That's probably the most accurate self-assessment that you've ever made.
So we good?
Yeah, we're good.
Like best friends good?
Yeah, best friends. Just no whistle today.
Got it. No whistle, just vibes. And horrifying unsolved disappearances of entire colonies.
Right. Today, we tell the story of Roanoke, not with fear, but with curiosity, with respect, and with a little bit of wonder.
And 0 ancient battle screams.
Correct.
A whole colony vanished, dude. A single word remained. And the silence of the wilderness and all kinds of...
What are you doing?
What are you talking about, dude?
You can't do that. I'm going to be recording.
Freaking Doritos.
Stop it. I'm going to be doing the show, and I
man.
cannot have you doing that the whole
What are you
time.
talking about? Don't
Okay, you know what? At least just go over there.
Okay, fine. Just make sure you do the intro, because I had to do it last time.
I was going to. I always do. I'm the one that's supposed to do the intro in the first
Wow,
place.
You're so cool. Were you like an intro god or something?
No, actually, I'm the host of The Witch Show, where smart meets stupid and somehow makes sense. My name's Georgie, and I'm thinking out loud so that you don't have to.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is The Witch Show, from what I think seriously to you.
WITS, The Witch Show.
Cool story, bro.
Welcome back to The Witch Show. Thank you so much for joining me again. You guys are the real ones for sure. Make sure that if you haven't had a chance, you go check out my Facebook page. I'm always posting some crazy stuff on there. And if you have something interesting that you want me to look into, just let me know. It's my thing. You know that I'm always doing my thing. And creepy cryptids and weird random facts, well, that's what I do. And speaking of weird random facts and creepy things, there's something uniquely unsettling about a silence that feels like it's hiding something. The kind of silence that doesn't feel like it comes from peace or stillness, but from absence. It's almost like something should be there, but it isn't. Today we're going to step into a story just like that. A story that begins with one of the earliest attempts to create a new life in the New World. And it ends in a disappearance that haunts the American history for almost 450 years. Or technically longer, because this one still hasn't been solved. This is the story of Roanoke, a colony built with hope, swallowed by mystery, and remembered because of one carved word: CROATOAN. The story goes like this. In 1587, long before the idea of the United States existed, a group of about 115 settlers arrived on what's now known as Roanoke Island, just off the coast of North Carolina in the Outer Banks. These settlers weren't adventurers or soldiers. They were families and parents and children. Even the first English baby born in the New World, Virginia Dare, entered the world there. And the colony was led by Governor John White, A man who truly believed in the dream of building something new. But just like you would expect, things didn't start smoothly. Food was scarce, fishing failed more often than it succeeded, the settlers didn't understand the land or the seasons, and their relationship with the local Native American tribes was fragile. Sometimes it was friendly, sometimes it was violent. And above everything, they were isolated. There were no established roads, no nearby towns, no backup plan, just an ocean on one side and dense forest on the other, and the unknown stretching miles in every single direction. I mean, that's probably terrifying for most people. Imagine coming to a brand new land that you've never scouted before with minimal knowledge on what to do and then just trying to survive. And the worst part of it all is like the food that you're planting isn't growing because you don't know how to work the soil. You're not good at fishing the territory because, well, you've never fished in this area before. And not only that, but you got like 114 other people who are like basically counting on each other to survive in this brand new world. Let alone you need to worry about things like the bubonic plague or smallpox, tuberculosis, influenza. And even in this brand new world that you're in, you still got to worry about poor sanitation, limited medical knowledge, and then you'd have frequent outbreaks, which would turn these diseases into horrible epidemics. Imagine all of that in the new world. And then you have a high infant mortality rate in the 1500s. Like, why not? Pile that on, of course. And you're trying to do all of this and create a new world. It's like pushing this massive boulder up a very steep hill. Those odds are 100% not in your favor. But Governor John White thought he could do it. And just like you would expect, it wasn't going very well for him. By the end of the summer, it became clear that the colony wouldn't survive without more supplies. So, Governor John White made a decision that would define the entire fate of Roanoke. He told his wife that he had to go and get some milk, and then he left and never came back. Got him. No, I'm just kidding. But he did leave. He boarded a ship and he sailed back to England, promising that he would return swiftly with supplies, tools, and reinforcements. So, the colony watched the sails disappear, expecting maybe 3 months of waiting. They had no way of knowing that it was actually going to be 3 years. White's return was delayed by something massive happening across the ocean. England went to war with Spain, and every capable ship, including supply ships, were forced into military service. So, White waited, and the colony waited, but the ocean between them stretched further and further apart. When White finally returned in 1590, Roanoke was not the same place. There were no fires burning, no children playing, no voices calling out. The clearing where the houses once stood looked carefully dismantled rather than destroyed. There were no signs of violence, no bones, no bodies, no burial grounds. It was as if the people simply got up one day and walked away quietly. White called out for his family, his daughter, his granddaughter. The wind was the only thing that answered. The settlement was empty. And then he saw it, carved neatly into a wooden post. CROATOAN. No distress signal, no cross carved beneath it, which was the prearranged sign if the colony had to be forced to leave under threat. Just one single word. Just CROATOAN. Now, here's where history gives us facts we can confirm. CROATOAN was the name of a nearby island, now called Hatteras Island. It's also the name of the CROATOAN tribe, who had once been allied with the settlers. White took the carving as a sign that the colony had relocated peacefully, but a storm forced his ship back to sea before he could reach the island, and he never made it back. John White died before ever knowing what happened to his family or the 115 souls that had depended on him. So the only clue, the only evidence, was a single word carved into a piece of wood. It was carved with intention and without panic. And that's where the mystery begins. So there are several explanations that historian and researchers have put forward. One is assimilation, the idea that the settlers joined the CROATOAN tribe and lived among them. Then, of course, there's the oral accounts from the later European explorers who reported seeing Native Americans with gray eyes, unusual in the region. But no physical artifacts or burial records have definitively confirmed the link. And then, of course, another theory is starvation or disease. But if disease wiped out the colony, where are the remains? Bodies don't move themselves. The same goes for conflict. If a neighboring tribe attacked, there would be signs, burned structures, scattered belongings, damaged, fortifications. There was none of that. Some propose that the settlers attempted to sail back to England or to a different location, but no missing ship was ever reported, and the buildings being carefully dismantled suggested planning, not desperation. And then there are more unsettling theories. A mass disappearance similar to the later missing 411 cases, Honestly, that's my favorite theory, because who doesn't love a creepy theory? Or maybe like some kind of creepy demon thing named CROATOAN. Just kidding. Maybe. There's also the theory that they migrated into the dense, unfamiliar swamp where people can simply just disappear. Or the belief whispered into oral folklore that something in the woods took them, something ancient, something older than the tribes themselves. We don't claim these as facts, but we also don't rule out the unknown for the sake of comfort. And of course, historically, the word itself is believed to reference either one of two things, the Croatoan tribe or the island of Croatoan. But here's where the story twists. The word Croatoan, it appears throughout American history at the site of other disappearances. Carved into a tree in Amelia Earhart's last lodging area, scribbled into the diary of a ship's captain who vanished at sea, also written at the bedside of Edgar Allan Poe shortly before his unexplained death. It's not proof, but it is a pattern, and patterns matter. Croatoan was not a cry for help. It wasn't carved in panic. It was carved carefully, intentionally, which means the colony did not disappear suddenly. Whatever happened slowly enough and calmly enough that they believed they were simply just moving. So maybe the answer isn't that the colony vanished. Maybe the colony changed, integrated, became part of something else. Maybe their disappearance is not a death, but a transformation. Then, of course, the mystery becomes, well, why didn't anyone ever find them? And that's where the eerie silence returns. Why didn't they find them? Something prevented them from being traced, whether that was nature, assimilation, culture absorption, or something older and unnamed. We still don't know. And that uncertainty, well, that's where the story lives. Are we ever going to find out? Will we ever actually know? There's a strange comfort in believing Roanoke is just a story from the distant past, a tragedy sealed away by time, by the limits of communication, by the harshness of the frontier. Something that couldn't happen today, because we think we're connected now. We think that the world is mapped and that people can't just vanish anymore. But the truth is quieter than that, and it waits. In November of 1930, a Canadian fur trapper named Joe LaBelle arrived at a remote Inuit settlement on the shores of Lake Anjikuni, deep in the northern wilderness of Nunavut. This was a place that he had visited many times. He knew the people. He knew the sound of laughter around the fires. He knew the warmth of their hospitality. He expected to see smoke curling from igloos and hearing dogs bark in recognition as he approached the familiar clusters of snow homes. But instead, he stepped into a silence that didn't feel empty so much as abandoned. The fires were still burning. Their embers were red and alive, and a pot of stew sat over one of them, still warm. Tools were placed where they were last used, clothing was neatly hung, a rifle even rested against the wall. There were no signs of struggle, no overturned benches, no scattered supplies, no broken sled lines, just the unmistakable sense that people had been there moments before and then stopped existing. LaBelle searched every single dwelling. He even called out names, but there was never an answer. Outside, he found something worse. The sled dogs. Every one of them. They were still tied to their posts. Dead. Not killed, they just starved to death. Which means people had been gone for days, not moments. And they did not take their dogs with them. That's the part that chills experienced outdoorsmen. You don't leave your dogs, not in the Arctic. Their survival, their life. A mounted police unit investigated, and what they found confirmed LaBelle's account. No footprints in the snow, no trail, no signs of where the village could have gone. And just like Roanoke, they vanished without evidence of departure. The Anjikuni disappearance is recorded in official reports. And while historians have tried to downplay, interpret, or rationalize it over time, the foundation remains unshaken. A community was there, and then it wasn't. And the world kept going like it had learned how to look away. Roanoke and Anjikuni are separated by 343 years, by an ocean, by a culture, by a climate, by technology. One happened in the beginning of colonial America, and the other in the age of telegraphs and newspapers. And yet the patterns, they're the same. Communities disappearing without violence, possessions left as if they simply paused, no graves, no bodies, no tracks, just emptiness where people should be. Roanoke left behind a word, and Anjikuni left behind silence. One disappearance speaks, the other, it refuses to. And in between them, hundreds, possibly thousands of disappearances documented in wilderness regions all across Northern America. They follow the same quiet signature, the signature that doesn't scream. It whispers, it suggests, it waits. Whatever happened in Roanoke did not end in Roanoke. And that's what lingers long after the story is told. The thing about stories like Roanoke and Anjikuni is that we tend to look at them like they're puzzles that we just haven't solved yet. Like if we find the right documents, the right diary entry, the right footprints, everything will snap into place and we'll finally get to say, oh, so that's what happened. Because the unknown is uncomfortable. Humans don't like open endings. We want answers. We want cause and effect. We want the world to make sense. But sometimes the world doesn't play by those rules. Sometimes entire communities can just slip out of the record. Not violently, not chaotically, just gone. As if the universe reached out and softly pressed erase instead of delete. And we're left standing there, staring at what remains. Quiet fires, unfinished meals, a carved word, an empty horizon, and realizing that the scariest thing isn't what we find, it's what we don't. Roanoke left a message, Anjikuni left silence, and both leaves us with the same lingering questions. How does a group of people disappear without leaving a trace? What happened? Where did they go? Are we ever actually going to know? We're not talking about one person getting lost on a trail. We're talking about families, children, communities, people with routines, relationships, promises, and futures. And when they vanish without evidence, it suggests something that operates outside of the normal boundaries we understand. Whether that's nature, whether that's culture blending into culture, whether that's something psychological or environmental, or whether it's something we just don't have a word for yet. Maybe Roanoke didn't disappear. Maybe they just crossed into something we don't have a vocabulary for. Maybe CROATOAN wasn't a warning, or a curse, or a mystery. Maybe it was directions. A message that simply said, we went this way, we changed, we became something else. But the part that keeps me up, the part that you feel in your chest hours after hearing the story, is that no matter how far we search, how many forests we cross, how many archives we open, we still haven't found them. And maybe we're not meant to. Maybe some mysteries are not puzzles to solve. Maybe they're mirrors, reflections of how small our understanding really is. Reflections of how much wilderness still exists out there and in us. So if there's one thing to take from this story, it's this. Not everything lost is gone. And not everything gone is forgotten. But some things just move out of sight until the right person starts asking the right questions. I can't say for sure if I know that we're ever going to solve this one. I don't know if we'll solve either of them. But I do know that it is very creepy. An entire colony going missing completely. I know that if I was a part of a community, I would leave some sort of sign of where I was going. Not just a single word. I wouldn't leave a cryptic. I definitely wouldn't leave a puzzle for my family to figure out if they were coming back with supplies that I needed to survive. I feel like I would leave a note, maybe carve a longer message than CROATOAN. And the fact that they were never found, no bodies, no tracks, nothing, and things were dismantled with precision, they had plenty of time to write a message. They had to know somebody was coming back at some point. I get it, 3 years is a long time. But even then, I still would leave a message, especially if I was leaving the original place. I feel like that's common sense. I feel like that's what makes this story so incredibly weird. I think that we would all do something like that. So the fact that 115 colonists didn't do that, not a single one, I personally think that that's what makes this story so creepy. Of course, it's always up for speculation. Tell me what you think. What do you think happened? Give me your best theory. And if you haven't had a chance yet, I'm always posting some crazy stuff on my Facebook page. I typically post more interesting things than I talk about on the podcast, even though they're a little bit shorter. So if you haven't had an opportunity to check it out, make sure you go and check it out. If you haven't yet, I promise you're missing out. It's some crazy stuff I be posting on there all the time. It's also a great place to communicate with me. I'm always checking my comments. I'm always responding to my fans. And I always want to hear what you guys have to say. So, like always, until next time, my name's Georgie, and I'm thinking out loud so you don't have to.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is The Witch Show from What I Think Seriously to You.
WITS.